Hello and good morning, fellow targeted individual. Dealing with active threats can be a troubling situation. In some states, you can do your own private investigations if you simply have an online business. Here in the state of Florida and in other states, there are exemptions which allow people to do their own private investigations with no license. Things you may want to do are contact your local police chief, even a fusion center. They may be shocked. Say, hey, you got a targeted individual doing their own investigation. And you can mention, look, my business has experienced cyber attacks. I've documented some stalking, people parking on my grass for an hour. When I get my mail, they drive off very quick. They're showing up at supermarkets, airports, hotels, hospitals, harassing you, and you have video proof. When you have stuff like that, fellow TIs, people can't blame you for wanting to investigate. And when you forewarn people and let them know, look, I'm going to be investigating at this certain time in this certain area from a distance, if cops are called, they're just going to overlook it. So if you're a TI looking at doing this here in the state of Florida, you cannot say that you're a private investigator. And you can't work for like a third party. So you have to do it by yourself or with an employee. And one thing you can also do is create a non-disclosure agreement. So that way, if you end up going to the police department, you can show, look, I have a non-disclosure agreement with a partner of my business. We don't want to go into the details, but we're investigating a person which has been impacting my business. Another thing that you can do also is you can get dressed up. If you don't have a decent looking car, rent one. Or go with a friend that has a better looking car. Go to the perpetrator's neighborhood when they're not around and talk to their neighbors. Now, I don't promote fraud, but in situations where you're dealing with harassment and police say your matter is civil because the person's a contractor, you may want to just knock on some doors and say, hey, I'm doing an investigation on Billy Joe, whatever his name is. And he's applied for a security clearance. Do you know anything about him? Like his associations, habits? And don't be surprised if people tell you, oh yeah, he's a 32nd degree Freemason. He's a retired contractor. He goes to the VFW daily. He's a good guy. That will help you to determine that person's associations, friendships, and so on. And many people which are retired military, they're very quick to spill the beans when they hear the term security clearance stated, because when people get a security clearance, from what I understand, neighbors sometimes are talked to. I don't encourage people going that route. If you do, you definitely want to take off the tag or put it in the back, make it where it's obscured a little bit, where nobody will be able to read it, and have somebody in the car. That way, if they try to get the tag, they can push it down. Also, if you're going to be doing your own investigations, the perp doesn't have any privacy rights in public. We really don't have any rights to privacy in public because private investigators, or those doing private investigations, can technically follow you anywhere in public. Now, a private investigator doesn't want to be seen, because if they're seen repeatedly, then that's harassment and stalking. So you want to do things from a distance. You want to change hats maybe. You don't want it to be noticeable. You may have to even change outfits. You may want to have a portable bike in your car, some binoculars. I have a Canon camera where I can zoom in long distances. I'll go through woods. Now, if you're ever in a situation where you're dealing with dogs, you may want to have some like bear spray and just spray it around, not on the dogs, you don't want to hurt them, but on the bushes and grass in different directions, like within 50 feet in 2 different places, and then go to a different direction, so that way it throws off the dogs. Throw a little comment powder with some cayenne pepper, some bear spray. It's a great deterrent from getting attacked by dogs. Also, if you're going to be actively monitoring one of these active threats, which is harassing you, your family, your kids, whatever, you never want to come across as being like an angry person or intimidating. You don't want to intimidate people. So if you cross their path, just pretend like you're looking at a product. Now, let's say they're going to a park every day to walk, and you've been going there at a certain time, and they start showing up every time you go there. One thing you may want to do is, instead of going at 10:30 in the morning to take your daily walk, you may want to change it up to 1:15. If you notice, they show up seconds later every single time, and anytime you go there. When you change up the times every day, like 2:15, 3:19 one day, 4:16, and they show up seconds later, it's typically because you're being targeted with stingray technology. That is when you know you're dealing with somebody that doesn't respect you. Now, these active threats, fellow TIs, may come across as being suicidal. You have to remember they are substantial threats. They are credible threats to public safety. Some of them will actually try to start fights. Just walk away. Don't be the aggressor. Now, in some states, if somebody commits a misdemeanor or felony, you can conduct a citizen's arrest. You really want to know the law. And you can't just harm these people and leave bruise marks on them. But if you say you're doing a citizen's arrest and this person has committed a felony or a misdemeanor in your state, and your state allows you to do a citizen's arrest for certain types of crimes, and they try to flee, well, you can detain that person, that criminal threat. But I do not encourage people utilizing deadly force. But if they pull out a knife or a gun, then you have to protect yourself and your community from that active threat. Our thing should be avoiding the threat, but documenting the threat actor, the legal threat, and getting as much information as we can about it. Also, some of these legal threats, dissidents of our Constitution, have very vulnerable security measures. Some of them, they leave their computers open with sensitive material without logging out when they go to a bathroom for a short period. Those could be opportunities to gain intelligence on the threat if their activities have been shown on threat assessments to pose a direct threat to our security and our safety. Then you have a moral obligation, and a necessity to counter the threat. Right now, I'm in the middle of nowhere, nearby a place called the Van Fleet Trail in Maybelle, Florida. So let's say you're on the road, or you're in a city with where there's lots of sidewalks, and you get to a light that's like 19.4 miles away from your house, and you notice a guy off to the side of the road wearing some purple pants that have white stripes. He's wearing a white shirt, and he waves at you, but he doesn't wave at nobody else. And then you get to your house 19.2 miles away. You don't see one other person on the sidewalk. But as we're going into the residential area, you do notice a person wearing the same exact outfit. The likelihood of that defies the probability of an event. So what the enemy does is they do things which the target will notice, but other people won't. And the reason why is because typically targets are in a state of hyper-awareness. They're anxiety-ridden, and they're more focused on their surroundings than the average American. A lot of people have tunnel vision, sheep mentality, and you'll see people herd up like cattle on the road during rush hour, and they're not concerned about some guy wearing purple shorts that are white striped and a white shirt with a kangaroo on it. So if you see the same exact pattern and you drive 19.2 miles and you notice it right as you're going in through the gate, that could be a sign. Now, I have some footage from yesterday. I was e-biking and it was pouring rain prior, so I didn't see not one person on a bicycle. I just seen about maybe 9 people for about 3.2 miles. Once I got about a mile from my house, I noticed some unusual stuff. So I turned on my recorder. Typically I'll have it on, but I had it off because it started sprinkling off and on. You don't want to ruin your electronics, so try to get things that are waterproof. I have a waterproof case for this thing at the house. So I get to the front entrance of where I live at, and I seen a lady wearing a shirt that had reminded me of a group that wears the same exact shirt, and they had mobbed me. Well, if you go into the residential area where I live at, and you take a right, and you go to the second house, it's a 2-story house. There is an older white guy that lives there. He's very friendly. But I was mobbed by him and a group of veterans. They weren't a part of the neighborhood watch group, but they confronted me and mobbed me, all wearing the same type of shirt. This was like 2 years ago. So yesterday, as I was going into the house, I noticed this person wearing the same type of shirt, and they were shaking like a leaf and looking down. They've never been seen before in the neighborhood. If you see stuff like that, it's because the enemy wants to gaslight you. So just view every single thing when you're outside of your house as potential theater. That way you're not left in suspense wondering if you were targeted, because the enemy does theater. This is no joke. Right in this area right here. It's right in this, right over here. One day I'm driving like 28 miles past my house and the sky honks the horn. It happened again 3.5 miles from that location. Then it happened again in Tampa. Then it happened again in St. Pete. And I noticed these people wore suits, and they utilized elderly veterans. These people, they travel, fellow TIs. Our security apparatus has Freemasons, which travel across the country. Literally will follow you from Florida to Chicago. I documented it around 2009. The same exact RV I filled up around, what was the name of that town? Miramar Beach, Florida, in Northwest Florida, and I drove all the way to Chicago. The same RV was on my tail at every rest stop. When I drove back 2 days later, the same RV showed up, refueling there. And then they asked if they can use my cell phone. I said, you can just keep it, because I know you're following me. I never threatened these people. I never harassed them. Stay strong. God bless. Say no to violence. Say no to terrorism. And if you have the money, look at leaving the U.S.